Who sent this?
Dan.
Dan. Okay.
Saul Leiter.
Saul Leiter?
Yeah. And I particularly like his abstractions, like his use of weather.
Hold on here. We got the mic coming.
Saul Leiter. He was in Milwaukee. He had an exhibit about a year ago at the museum. And he took these pictures that are called 35 millimeter slides and then printed off color slides. And he does a lot of city, urban landscape, people going about their daily business. He does a lot of weather pictures shot through raindrops, shot through foggy windows, a lot of reflections. And to me, again, I just like the emotional aspect of his pictures. They kind of rise above ordinary living and give you a sense of, to me, isolation and individuality of people that are in daily life, but are in a mysterious way, are photographed. I think it's contemporary.
I just wanted to point out for those people who don't know, this was from the 1950s, Dan. So, by definition, some of us who have been thinking in our heads contemporary meaning of the modern era in the last 10 years or whatever, this goes back 60 years or 50 years, but could still be considered contemporary.
My first interpretation looking at this was recent. Yeah.
I think for me another component of contemporary photography sort of addresses what Sonia talked about, the arm and the sweater wrapping around the neck, and an image like this. It has a lot to do with strong graphic quality and the compositions that are created. One of my favorite photographers, Michael Kenna, who does work that probably looks like it could have been made years ago, and it's more, in some ways, initially a traditional kind of landscape approach, and it's black and white, but the composition and the graphic way that he represents things, I think, come across as very contemporary.
Let me just add a word.
Hey, go
I was
ahead.
going to add one word to that, and that it's abstract. And I think that these, although they appear to be a realistic situation, they have, you can abstract them and get very satisfying effects.
Next one.
You were thinking of that.
Actually, can you move ahead a couple? There's one, since we're talking about abstracts, I wonder if... Keep going, one more. Keep going. We'll come back to these. Keep, one more. One more. Keep going. One more. There it is. Who sent this? Not here or won't admit to it? So, here we go with abstract. No sense of date, no sense of time. A little hard on the subject too. Want to tell us something?
No, I don't.
I guess one question I have for the group is it important to consider art history? I mean, if Dan's bringing in Saul Leiter and Harry Callahan, who've already been kind of distinguished in when they're making work and where their work fits in the history of art, and then we're considering it, well, it's contemporary. I mean, can we call it contemporary, or can we call it something that influences us to make our own contemporary work now? I'm not sure. I think you have to consider time.
Anything else on that? Okay, we can work our way back.
Pick one you want to stop on.
Well, right there, we're good. Who sent this? Who did?
Dan did.
Dan, okay. Well, thank you, Dan, for keeping us full of images here.
I know who it is, if we want to know who it is. Do you know who it is, Dan?
Quick question. Does it matter who it is, whether you define it as contemporary or not? No? Yes? What?
Well, you should be curious about who's making what.
Tell us why yes.
I don't know why we're avoiding this, but the word contemporary means now. It doesn't mean 50 years ago.
So at what point, at what time has passed should it be? It's kind of a gray area. I guess it's personal at that point.
I have a question. Is something contemporary if it's within your living memory? If the artist is still living, even though he produced it 50 years ago, is it contemporary if a picture looks like it could have been done today but was done 50 years ago? I don't know that time always is an element of something being contemporary. Certainly by definition, contemporary is now. However, when is that cutoff? 20 years ago? 25? 1?
Well,
I don't know.
contemporary is an adjective, though. If contemporary style.
Go.
Well, there is a
I gotta agree with that. Contemporary is something that I think of is that you look at something now, it reminded you of the past. And it's in a more of a modern version, maybe or not. But is that put yourself in what media has put you in, and that what you're remembering from the past? But contemporary to me is something that's older, it's put in a different version as what we see today. So it's all on the mind's perspective and one's own subjective opinion.
So an interpretive, evolving style?
I would say that, most definitely. And what's going on with the media is in your face about right now.
I think we'd have an easier time if we thought about what is contemporary music. We'd be able to draw a more distinct line between that versus what is contemporary. And I think Saul Leiter is still alive, so I'm sure he would still want to be considered contemporary. He also has a new book out that I haven't gotten it yet. He's one of my favorites. And I think it was just released last week.
Contemporary music would be almost what is popular and accepted now. I don't know if that would fit into photography or not. Because who accepts, it's subjective, who accepts and who doesn't accept. You had something earlier? Oh, we're good. Let's go to another one.
There was a response here.
Hold on.
Steve in the back.
With regard to music, I have 3 college-age daughters, and what they're listening to is Pink Floyd. So, you know, it's contemporary to them.
Yeah.
They love it.
I don't know, it looks to me like we've got a lot of shades of meaning to each of these words, and I'm thinking maybe what we're really looking for is innovation. And when we think about things like just being contemporary, give it the value that you're interested in aesthetically, or does it have to be innovative, that it's something new, and so forth. Just because it's current doesn't mean it has aesthetic value. And so every word has a shade of meaning to it.
It's interpretive.
Good fine art should be timeless in a way. It should have a quality no matter what it is.
I also think it's interesting that we're circling around ultimately, can we define what we're interested in as contemporary, and how ultimately we're circling around like, well, this is something that I like, so does saying that it's contemporary give it value? Or, you know, why not acknowledge, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm curious about why we're not, is it that we don't care to understand art history, or we don't think that's important, or, you know, and understanding who influenced who. And I think a lot of contemporary photography work done right now, especially stuff coming out of academia, which I know you all love that word, is a reflection on photo history and what's been done through art history, and is commenting back on. And so you're exactly right when you're saying it's about what's old is made new, right? But it's having a conversation with what was done in the past. You know, Dan, the work that you're making now is having a conversation with Saul Leiter, but I don't know if I would call his work contemporary.
Well, people have a tendency to want to label and categorize to help them understand. If you don't have a label for something, you're not quite sure how to relate to it because you can't peg it. If you can't peg it, I'm not quite sure what it is, so I'm not quite sure how to relate to it.